Episode 26, A Shop for Jeff. After Jeff left, the lady in shades realized that her favorite villa had just been bought. She couldn't help feeling upset and burst into tears in the shop. Owning a villa in the Green Island Garden District would have been a status symbol. Now she'd lost that chance. Her husband, Aljon Williams, also had a pain expression on his face. He was heartbroken, but he knew that he couldn't compete with Jeff's wealth. He knew that Jeff had won. Just then, another professionally dressed woman walked into the sales office. She was none other than Rose Wayne's aunt, Sue.
Clara, why are you crying?
She asked worriedly as she walked toward the lady in dark glasses. Clara sobbed again when she heard her sister-in-law's voice. Originally, her intention had been to show off in front of Sue and belittle her, but now that Jeff had bought the villa, she had nothing to boast about.
Sue must be laughing at me,
she thought. Clara immediately stopped crying.
It's okay, I've just got sand in my eyes,
she said.
How she got sand in her eyes?
Sue wondered.
Where did the sand come from in the sales office?
Sue said.
Clara and Aljon, have you really bought a villa here? That's fantastic. This is where the elite of New York live.
You should know that in the future, we'll be the most important people in New York. This is where the elite live, and we definitely belong here,
Clara answered proudly. In order to not be embarrassed in front of Sue, she decided to pretend that they'd already bought the villa. Darla, who remained to one side, saw this and her face turned pale. She said to herself,
I can't believe this woman actually dared to say she'd bought a villa in our district. This woman who just now was crying as if her parents had just died. I'd like to see what you'll do when people ask to see your villa.
Jeff left the sales office and made another decision.
Today I'm going to buy myself a car,
he said to himself.
I'm super rich, and it's crazy that I don't have a car.
Jeff went straight to New York Automobiles, which had the most advanced and best performance cars in the world. Jeff strolled around the car dealership and took a fancy to a Ferrari. To him it looked beautiful and gave off an aura of power. He knew it was also one of the most advanced in its performance. When he asked the salesperson, he was told that this Ferrari can also be custom-made for the customer. Jeff knew he wanted to buy it, so he got straight to the point. He ordered a custom-made Ferrari and all the components that would ensure that it was the best. The salesperson was very suspicious of Jeff, until Jeff asked Albert Miller of the Metro Bank to transfer half of the $400,000 to the car dealership's account number. The salesperson was stunned. He almost felt that he should be worshipping at Jeff's feet. His attitude toward Jeff had changed. The manager of the car dealership and all the other employees gathered around Jeff and looked at him ingratiatingly. Once Jeff had finished buying the car and started to leave the dealership, everyone in the shop cheered. Several passers-by were confused about the cheering and assumed it must be an important government official who'd come to inspect the place. Jeff felt relieved once he'd left the shop and said to himself,
I was only buying a car. They didn't need such a fuss.
Just as he was to take a taxi back to school, he received a call from Lucy Smith. Last time they met, Lucy had saved her number in his phone, so her name came up on the screen. Lucy said she had something to talk to him about. Lucy said that he was currently free, and they agreed to meet. About 10 minutes later, a Mercedes-Benz pulled up to where Jeff was waiting.
Jeff, get in.
Rolling down the car window, Lucy called out to him with a smile. Lucy had wavy hair, she was wearing an elegant dress, and looked very charming. Jeff felt slightly nervous as he got into the car.
Mrs. Smith, why are you looking for me?
You'll know in a while,
Lucy replied mysteriously. She started the engine and the Mercedes-Benz started moving along the wide New York streets. A black seatbelt was wedged across Lucy's chest, exposing her womanly figure. The seatbelt swayed slightly as the car drove on. Since getting into the car, Jeff's line of sight had been focused on her chest 80% of the time. Lucy felt her seatbelt tighten across her chest as she adjusted it. It made no difference. As soon as the car moved forward, Jeff could see her sizable chest bouncing up and down suggestively. This scene made Jeff cough violently and a stream of bright red blood flowed out from his nose.
Jeff, are you okay?
Lucy asked quickly. Secretly, she was pleased with herself. Clearly her body was still attractive, even to this rich and handsome young man.
I'm fine,
Jeff said as he raised his head and pinched his nose.
There's tissue paper in the glove compartment. Please help yourself.
Lucy said to Jeff. He opened the glove compartment, took out a tissue and wiped the blood from his nose.
Hey, what's this?
Jeff asked himself as he saw that inside the glove compartment there were several items of underwear, stockings, silky brass, and even lacy panties. Seeing this, Jeff became even more restless. He couldn't hide his arousal much longer.
Jeff, I'm sorry. I was too anxious just now and forgot they were in there.
Lucy said shyly. Actually, she'd put the undergarments in there on purpose. Jeff was such a rich and handsome young man. Of course any woman would want to be with him. Lucy hoped that the suggestive underwear would be enough to ignite Jeff's passion. She didn't expect Jeff simply closed the storage box after a few seconds.
Jeff, this is the first time I've bought these sorts of things. I've never been touched by a man. If you like, I'll drive the car to the underground garage. There will be no one in there, and you can do whatever you like.
Lucy said coyly. Jeff smiled awkwardly.
Maybe next time,
he said. Although Jeff was attracted to Lucy, as any man would be, it didn't mean that he wanted to sleep around. Lucy, on the other hand, was very disappointed. She tried to make herself feel better, telling herself,
Jeff is a superior to any other man and is worth to wait. I just need to be patient.
Just then, the car stopped. Jeff got out of the car and looked to see where they were. They were outside New York's busiest shopping center, the fashionable Liddy shopping mall. After locking the car, Lucy dragged Jeff into the mall and headed straight to first-floor boutique called Fashion Beauty that sold particularly elegant and exclusive brands of clothes.
Lucy is here to ask me to buy her clothes,
Jeff thought. As soon as they entered the store, the manager walked over with a smile. He looked at Lucy and nodded his head slightly, saying,
Mrs. Smith, I'm delighted to see you.
Mrs. Smith, is Lucy a regular customer here?
Jeff asked himself.
Jeff, this is one of my shops.
Lucy explained to Jeff as she saw his confusion. Then she looked at the shop manager and said,
Vincent, from now on, Jeff is the owner of this boutique. We must listen to everything he says.
Excuse me.
Vincent didn't understand, but since it was Lucy that had said it, he could only do as she said.
Yes, I understand.
He replied.
What do you mean?
Jeff asked. He didn't understand what Lucy was saying. Lucy replied.
This is the decision that has been passed down from the senior members of the family. I'm just making it happen. Jeff, sooner or later, you will have to join the family business empire. You must start with this store and gradually learn the ropes.
Lucy knew that the family wanted Jeff to run the shop to gain management experience.
Oh, all right then.
Jeff agreed. Eventually, he knew he would have to inherit his family's business.
Good.
Lucy smiled. She found Jeff very agreeable.
Jeff, I'm traveling to the Southwest later today to check on my family's gold business. I will be gone for several weeks.
Okay, sure.
Jeff replied. In his head, he was thinking,
It'll be more than a month before I get the Ferrari. During this time, I'll be able to drive Lucy's car.
Vincent, who was standing at the side, was confused. He had no idea that his boss was one of the country's richest men. He assumed that Jeff was just someone without much to his name. When they'd finalized everything at the Fashion Beauty boutique, Jeff drove Lucy directly to the airport. She was traveling to the Southwest that very day. After seeing Lucy off, Jeff drove the car around New York.
This large Mercedes-Benz is great to drive, and the other car, definitely stay out of my way.
He thought. Jeff saw King's Seafood restaurant on the side of the road and decided he'd like some of their lobster. So he drove the car over and parked up. It was almost time to eat, so he decided to buy some lobster to take back to eat with Debbie. The parking attendant at the entrance was sleepy, but when he noticed a Mercedes-Benz pulling up, he immediately woke up. He smiled and bowed his head, waiting for Jeff to climb out of the car so that he could park it. As Jeff walked to the door of the store, he noticed several dollar bills falling out of the pocket for the person in front of him. He smiled wryly and put the bank notes in his pocket.
Jeff, are you here begging for money?
He heard from behind him. He turned around and saw a group of people walking toward him. Leading the group was the cheerleader Jessa Fitzgerald.